Welcome to Exact Training. This lesson is on the Purchasing Control module and how to add a new vendor. The Purchasing Control module allows you to manually add purchase orders as well as convert planned orders generated by the MRP module. Before this can be done, we need to enter the vendor's information. Approved vendors must be entered, including contact name, address, and phone number. Once this has been accomplished, the system must be told which parts are available from which vendors. The system does not limit the number of vendors that can supply a given part, nor confine the number of parts that a given vendor can supply. Once the vendor information is in place, parts can then be linked to the vendor for purchase. Prior to entering a vendor, there are a few codes that need to be added: terms, ship via, currency, and tax codes if applicable. These codes can be added from the Activity menu, Purchasing Data, PO Code Data menu. Let's get started adding a new vendor to Purchasing Control. These are the steps we'll follow. From the System Manager Materials tab, we will launch the Purchasing Control module. We will choose the Activity menu, Purchasing Data, and Vendor Master. There we will enter information that pertains to this vendor. From the System Manager, choose the Materials tab and select the Purchasing Control module. Choose the Activity menu, select Purchasing Data, and from the list, choose Vendor Master. Begin with the Vendor ID field. If you know the code you'd like to use, manually enter it here. To see a list of existing vendors, double-click the field. Double-clicking will open the vendor browser window. Click the Search button to see a list of all available vendors. Locate the vendor you would like to use and double-click on that row. We can now see the vendor's information. You can associate other information files, such as a bitmap file, a Word document, an Excel file, and others. To do this, right-click on the field and choose a file from your computer. When an existing vendor ID has been chosen, other information will pop into various fields. If you are creating a new vendor, you will be entering that information now. Terms codes must be established before creating a new vendor. This is done in the Activity menu, Purchasing Data, PO Code Data, Terms item. Click the Terms drop-down field. Here you can choose what kind of terms will apply to this vendor. It is a two-digit alphanumeric code that defines a user designated set of discount and/or payment terms. Note that if you are using Great Plains, any two-character codes are acceptable. But Great Plains supports only one set of terms codes for all of its modules. So AR and AP use the same codes. Enter the name of the vendor. Then enter the name of the contact person for this vendor. And their phone number. You may also enter a fax number. Then enter the vendor's address, city, state, zip code, and country. Click the drop-down arrow for the type field. We will tell Max if this is a normal vendor, N, or a subcontract vendor, S. Subcontract vendors allow you to ship parts to the vendor for some or all of the manufacturing process. You must own the subcontract module to perform this type of purchase orders. Click the Status drop-down arrow. This field will show if the vendor is active or not. The status code for most vendors is active. A suspended vendor retains their information within the system, but the system will not allow you to enter purchase orders for the suspended vendor. However, you will be allowed to continue adding vendor part data and print outstanding purchase orders for this vendor. You can mark a vendor as deleted prior to deleting them from the system in order to be able to print outstanding orders for the vendor. No new orders can be created and no new information can be added to the deleted vendor's record. Choose the Currency Code drop-down arrow. This option is primarily designed to establish currency codes and exchange rates for the multi-currency option. However, all users must enter a base currency code with an exchange rate of 1. You must enter at least one currency code before entering data in Vendor Master. Do this in the Activity menu, Purchasing Data, PO Code Data, Currency Item. In the Remit To section, enter the address the payment should be sent to. You may select the checkbox next to Print Vendor Part ID to print the vendor part ID on purchase orders and dispatch orders. You may select the checkbox for Print Second Part Description to print Description 2 on purchase orders regardless of the setting assigned in PO Notes. Clearing this box allows you to print Description 2 and using the PO Notes dialog box for individual PO line items. Click this button if you would like to print the view vendor information from your accounting package. Click this checkbox. If you have real-time vendor integration turned on in your configuration, vendor information will automatically be saved to your accounting package when you save. To see additional information about this vendor, click the More button. The More button takes you to additional shipping information, user-defined fields, year-to-date totals for the vendor, tax codes, and email addresses. And the More Vendor Data window will appear. You can see additional information here, such as ship method, year-to-date purchase amounts, tax code, and a few other things. Select the FOB point field. The shipping method specified here will appear as the default for all purchase orders for this vendor. Ship via codes are established in the PO code data. The description of the ship via code will appear next to the code automatically. Shipping instructions, a 20-character field in which you enter additional instructions for the shipping of your purchased parts. Let's talk about the year-to-date totals. In the purchase amount, the system automatically tracks the year-to-date purchase dollar amount for each vendor. This field is user maintainable. In the receipt amount, the system automatically tracks the year-to-date received dollar amount for each vendor. The field is user maintainable. In the purchase orders cut, the system automatically tracks the year-to-date purchase order activity for each vendor. This field is also user maintainable. The month-to-date, year-to-date purge utility in the System Manager Batch menu is used to roll the information for each month and year. Choose the tax code field. If you know the code, manually enter it here. Otherwise, double-click to choose it from the browser, and the browser window will open. If an item already appears in the search field, you may remove it by clicking on the Erase Delete button. Then all the available tax codes will appear in the window. Locate the tax code you would like to use and double-click the line to select it. Let's look at the VAT area. These fields are used to enter value-added tax information for vendors. Tax can be applied by line item on the purchase order. Enter the vendor's fiscal code and tax number. When finished entering information in this More window, and to return to the main vendor window, click the OK button. Notice the buttons at the bottom of this Vendor Master window. To close this window, click the Close button. To clear any information you have entered onto the window, press the Clear button. To update any information you have entered, select the Update button. If this is a new vendor, an Add button will be visible instead of the Update button. To delete this vendor, choose the Delete button. Max will only allow you to delete a vendor when the vendor is not used on any purchase orders, and there are no vendor part records associated with this vendor. When finished working in the Vendor Master window, choose the Close button. If you have not chosen the Update button, a message will appear asking if you want to save your changes. Choose Yes to save your changes now. A message will appear letting you know the save was successful. And you will be back to the main window of the Purchasing Control module. To add a new vendor, these are the steps we followed. From the System Manager Materials tab, we launched the Purchasing Control module. Then we chose the Activity menu, then Purchasing Data, and Vendor Master. After completing this lesson, you should understand that purchasing allows manual purchase order entry or conversion of MRP planned orders. Vendor data must exist prior, and you must enter terms, ship via, currency, tax codes before entering a vendor. That completes our lesson. Thank you from Exact Training.